Morgan Parker is a man on a mission to ride his motorcycle from Hong Kong to Brisbane, Australia on a voyage that will see him travel through 10 countries and in the process raise awareness about 10 of the most important charities across the region. It's an adventure that'll test his limits during a trip that'll be exciting, dangerous, eye-opening and always breathtaking. Join him each week as he travels wheel to wheel. After his first water crossing from Malaysia, we join Morgan in Indonesia as he begins the longest stint of his expedition.
It was fitting that I begin my journey through Indonesia, a country of over 17,000 islands, on a boat rather than a motorcycle. But there I was, about to cross the Malacca Strait from Malaysia to Sumatra. I'd already ridden over 12,000 kilometres through 7 countries, but this was, remarkably, my first water crossing. It had become customary during the expedition to improvise, so getting my bike on and off the passenger ferry was a case of using whatever resources I could find nearby. So we've rented this trawler to get my bike, which was up there on the commercial ferry that we came across from Malaysia on. We're going to take this crane and lift up my bike to carry it over the water and land it here. So I'll tell you what, this is going to be unbelievable. I hope it all works. For 1.5 years, I'd been imagining this very moment. Countless people had asked me, Morgan, how are you going to get your bike from Hong Kong to Australia? There's a lot of water in between. Did I imagine an earth mover being part of the answer? Not exactly, but hey, it worked. After slipping an industrious local fisherman $30, my bike was lifted off the ferry and I could look forward to the 8th country on the wheel-to-wheel expedition.
I made it into Indonesia. It took 3 hours to get through the Dumai. Because I had to take all of the fuel out of the bike to put it on the ferry, I've now run out of fuel. Luckily, I was able to get pretty close to a petrol station here and just walk my bike there. It's the first time I've run out of fuel on the wheel-to-wheel expedition.
Smooth roads, courteous drivers, and traffic rules? I'd left all of that behind in Malaysia. This was hardcore and extremely dangerous riding. From Dumai to Medan, I faced 600 kilometres of utter chaos. But there was an unexpected surprise waiting for me in Medan. A huge group of Harley-Davidson motorcycles parked right outside my hotel. I figured this had to be an opportunity.
It's 5 a.m. in the morning. The reason I got up this early to ride is that there's 55 Harley-Davidson riders here in Medan, coincidentally going in exactly the same direction I am, and that's north to Banda Aceh today. They're here on their annual ride convention. There's 55 bikes, so I thought it'd be a good idea to tag along and have some fun. This will be the second Harley-Davidson group I've ridden with in 1 week, once in Malaysia and now here again in Indonesia. Fantastic stuff.
We started out before dawn with a full police escort and several support vehicles. Like Moses parting the Red Sea, traffic was pushed to the side. Unfortunately, the enjoyable ride didn't last long. The leader of the Harley-Davidson group collided head-on with another bike. Both he and his wife, who was riding on the back, were badly injured. It was a stark reminder of the dangers I faced on the Indonesian roads.
And what you see here is the result of a collision between one of our Harley riders and a scooter. Thankfully, no one has died. The people that were hit, a pedestrian and a scooter, have been taken away to hospital. The Harley riders are still on the ground. They are alive, perhaps a broken leg. Riding in Indonesia is still extremely dangerous.
Feeling slightly unsettled and extremely cautious, I had to leave the Harley group and press on to Banda Aceh. I was to meet Ian Singleton and our designated charity, Pan Eco. I arrived at dusk, not sure what to expect in a town that was devastated by the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. The Aceh region, on the northern tip of Sumatra, was the closest piece of land to the massive earthquake's epicenter. Entire villages disappeared and 170,000 Indonesians died under the sea's awesome power. Although large parts of Banda Aceh have been rebuilt, everywhere I went I encountered reminders of the tragedy. From the people I spoke to, who'd lost family and friends, to this ship, which was carried inland by a wave and now serves as a kind of chilling memorial to that day.
5 kilometres away from the coastline in the centre of Banda Aceh, and what you see here is an enormous boat, which is I'm told is a power station, floating power station. It must be over 100 metres long. It's absolutely enormous and looks very heavy. The tsunami picked it up like a feather and dumped it here, and this is where it remains. Again, incredible, the power of these tsunamis. Just decimated the area around. You see a lot of new buildings that have been built in the last 7 years surrounding this area. And then this old thing, unbelievable.
When I saw the scale of recovery required here, I couldn't help but admire the resilience of the local people. I met up with Ian of Pan Echo and a popular former provincial senator, and together we rode out of town on a brand new highway funded by the US government. The ride was fantastic and offered me a variety of surfaces, from newly sealed blacktop to sand to dirt, and of course, more water crossings.
We're partway into one of the most magnificent rides I've ever had in my life, and certainly on the wheel-to-wheel expedition, driving south from Banda Aceh along the west coast of Sumatra. This area was absolutely torn apart by the tsunami on the 26th of December 2004. One of the most dramatic examples of the damage that was done is this island out here never used to be an island. It used to actually be connected to the mainland here. So this entire sea has been created as a result of the tsunami.
We continued down the west coast to Malabo to join Ed and the rest of the Siren crew. That night, we celebrated our reunion in the house of a local village chief. There were no guest houses in this part of Sumatra, so the chief and his family welcomed our entire group. After a simple meal, we bunked down on the floor for a few hours sleep before the next day's journey began. We were going to trek deep into the jungle with Pan Eco to document one of the world's worst but little known environmental devastations. I woke before dawn to gather my thoughts and prepare for the grueling trip ahead. When we started researching charities for the wheel-to-wheel expedition, I knew there was a lot I had to learn about the real gritty, unheralded work being done to protect the environment. Like many of you out there, I had no idea what a peat swamp was, let alone how crucial it is to the health of our planet. But here, hundreds of kilometers away from what we might call civilization, Pan Eco opened my eyes to a serious and alarming problem.
We're about to go up the river with Pan Eco to see the Tripa peat swamp and see the environmental devastation that's taking place here in Sumatra.
Ian, who's a former zookeeper and an orangutan specialist, joined Pan Eco to head up their Sumatra orangutan conservation program. He informed me that it was the powerful palm oil industry that was the culprit behind the deforestation we were witnessing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Now this is what I came to see and what people need to see. This is cataclysmic.
Yeah.
Looks like an asteroid's just torn through here.
It was all primary rainforest until about 3 months ago.
This is a palm oil plantation in preparation. What a disaster.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you see that, that was beautiful primary rainforest until a few months ago, the whole thing. But once you take away the trees, the sun gets in, it dries it all out, the peat oxidizes, releasing carbon dioxide to the air, and that causes the greenhouse effect and contributes to climate change. And also, once you dry the peat, it starts to subside. It goes down about 1 meter a year. Wow. We're only like a few kilometers away from the sea right now, so within 20 years, this will all be under the sea.
Coastal peat swamps are like vast underwater forests, rich in carbon and home to a huge variety of plants and animals. They protect the coastline, prevent flooding, and provide sustenance for man and animals alike. According to Ian, the remaining forests and swamps of Sumatra are home to some 6,000 orangutans. The largest concentration in the world lives right here in the Aceh peat swamps. But conversion of these swamps for palm oil plantations is endangering not only the fragile orangutan population, but the biodiversity of the entire region.
On dryland forests like this, it just replaces all the wildlife. I mean, look around you. Can you see a bird or a mammal or anything? Nothing. I mean, the palm oils, they kind of look fairly pretty to some people, but nothing lives here. So for biodiversity, it's devastating. Forests have other uses. They provide water, they provide security, they even provide microclimates here. Some of the plantations here have the highest yields in the world, and the reason is because they're next to the forest, and they have the microclimate that's ideal for it. If you take that forest away, even the palm oil plantations lose.
While everyone I spoke to agreed that the peat swamps must be saved, the mighty palm oil industry was a formidable foe. So Pan-Eco's local partner, a group called Yell, decided to work with big business instead. Their goal? To show plantation companies how they can integrate with local communities and create an environmentally sustainable business.
Through the pilot study, we tried to send a message that palm oil can also be sustainable and eco-friendly. It means that also you can also develop palm oil with the community, not always doing a big, large scale of oil palm company which destroys the environment, destroys the source of livelihood in the area. But you can also give the possibility for the smallholders, for small farmers, to get the benefit from palm oil, and it's sustainable and eco-friendly.
In the middle of a barren stretch of swamp, I pulled my boot out of the thick peat.
I think I'm down 5 million years.
I was now vividly aware that this land should be underwater, flourishing and thriving, but it wasn't. This carbon oxidization may be happening far away from high-rises, Wi-Fi and double espressos, but there's no doubt it's affecting the entire world.
Deforestation of the peat swamps in Indonesia has a major, major impact on climate change globally.
Out of sight, out of mind. Nobody cares. This is particularly important to me, and the reason I wanted to come here on Wheel to Wheel is this isn't just a case of cutting down a forest and the burning of the trees and the release of smoke into the atmosphere. It's not the regenerative benefits that the trees that are lost are producing. It's all of that, plus millions of years of carbon that's being released in the atmosphere.
The bottom line is that this is the last frontier. You know, once you lose this, you've lost the Southeast Asian rainforest. If we don't do something now, it's gone, because Malaysia and everywhere else has already lost theirs.
It was time to continue my journey with Pan-Eco, venturing to more remote locations along the west coast, to hopefully understand more about Sumatra's special environmental importance.
My time in Sumatra has been bittersweet. You've got epic rides, beautiful scenery, palm trees, the beach, but we've also got the sinister environmental degradation that Pan-Eco is working on. Travelling out there into remote areas to see it is just mind-boggling. The riding has been the most difficult of the whole wheel-to-wheel expedition. Millions of cars, bikes, buses all over the roads, just absolute chaos. Riding on the sand, gravel, mud, dirt, blacktop here and there, potholes everywhere. There's only one thing left to do. Like a good Queenslander, go and have a swim.
We drove south to a historically pivotal, yet relatively unknown spot called Lake Toba. As we crossed a beautiful green mountain pass, we realized we were actually riding over the lip of an ancient volcano and down into its crater where a huge lake had formed.
This is Lake Toba, which is we're actually sitting in the cauldron of a volcanic eruption, which is the biggest volcanic eruption ever recorded anywhere on the planet. And all geologists in the world know this lake as the Toba event, which is a black line anywhere, even in Greenland, you find the Toba event. But this erupted about 75,000 years ago, and at the same time, the people studying the human genome have concluded that the human race went through a genetic bottleneck between 2,000 and 10,000 people at the same time. And the fauna of the seas changed dramatically overnight about the same time. So this eruption basically put the world into a nuclear winter for God knows how many years, but a major, major event in the history of the planet.
In the shadow of the great volcano, we took the opportunity to relax and enjoy the local culture for an afternoon. My last excursion with Ian was the passion that drew him to Indonesia in the first place. Here at Pan Eco's orangutan conservation facility, orangutans that were once kept illegally as pets are cared for and ultimately returned to the wild. Like so many of the people I'd encountered on my expedition, Ian had found his life's work. He was dedicated, well-informed, and absolutely committed to this cause.
What gets me, what makes me passionate, is the fact that it's all needless, yeah? It's pointless. And all the excuses that these companies come up with for developing peat swamps, how much it contributes to local economies and stuff. I mean, you saw yourself driving through these areas with peat swamp plantations that have been there for decades. And the people are living in what? Yeah? They're living in little wooden houses, their schools are made of wood and they have no books. You know, exactly the same as it was 40 years ago. They haven't benefited at all.
The whole issue to me was very powerful, and when I first started talking with Ian Singleton, he was just such a great bloke and with a very deep academic background as well, with immense knowledge on the subject. And also very passionate, of course, about the orangutan habitat loss, which is another consequence of these palm oil conversions going on. I started to realise just how wide and how deep this issue is, and it was something that was very compelling to me. We had to get involved in, and I really feel strongly about the work that they're doing, and I hope that they can bring about some change.
Late Toba to Jakarta. It was going to be an epic solo ride down Sumatra to get to the Java ferry. Time to stretch myself to the very limits. Time for the most challenging 2 days of my life. It was only just after sunrise and I'd started my marathon ride to Jakarta with my first tyre puncture of the entire expedition. After 70 days riding, it was bound to happen, especially on roads as bad as these. Luckily, I rolled down a hill and found a repair shop in a tiny village. A friendly father and son team fixed me up and I was back on my way to a very important milestone. And after 70 days riding from Hong Kong and leaving on the 1st of March, I'm finally here at the equator. Bye-bye North, hello South. The urgency I felt to push myself, to keep on schedule, was not helped at all by the horrendous condition of the roads. Hairpin turns, potholes, oncoming traffic, it was all madness. Plus, I'd completely underestimated the sheer size of Sumatra. The distance I rode in 2 days was the equivalent of driving from Canada to Mexico through the United States. After 18 hours of riding, I grabbed a quick nap by the side of the road and pushed on to the pier. The ferry ride to Java offered a brief respite, preparing me for another 2.5 hours of horrendous gravel roads and traffic into the Indonesian capital. I can't tell you how relieved I was to switch off my bike in front of the Meridian Hotel in Jakarta. I've been on the go for 45 hours. Had a 6-hour break in the middle, and that's all. I haven't stopped for anything other than fuel, no food, no toilet breaks, nothing. I've been going hardcore, hell for leather. I need to eat. I can't believe I made it 2 days without eating. Just goes to show. So I just want some food. Surprisingly, I'm not that tired, so I'm just keen to sit back and relax and enjoy what Jakarta has to offer. Cheeseburger and a milkshake. It's enough to bring me to tears. So good.
Oh, it's great to be alive.
I slept for 10 hours in the most comfortable bed you can imagine, then refueled with more food and some well-earned pampering. After 73 continuous days on the road for the wheel-to-wheel expedition, I feel like a broken man, particularly after my long ride to Jakarta. I'm now here at Le Spa at the Meridian in Jakarta, and I'm going to get rebuilt through some remedial massage. There's no doubt about it, I gambled with my life on that 2-day ride from Aceh to Jakarta. But I came out okay and was enjoying being back in the big city.
Bye-bye.
I'd lived here when I was just starting out my career 16 years ago. But life can change in an instant. For me, my luck ran out near Bandung, a few hours east of Jakarta. The guy was on a scooter. He hit my right pannier, smashing my pannier. My bags flew off the back of the bike, but unfortunately his bike was destroyed, and more importantly he is now here in this hospital and has a broken leg, a seriously broken leg requiring an orthopedic surgeon to fix it. Despite not being necessarily responsible for the accident, I quickly identified that this guy would not have the means to pay for such a significant injury, so I brought him to the hospital and I've been here for the last few hours. I'm getting a little bit nervous at the moment because the police are asking me to sign a statement which is written in Bahasa Indonesia, which I don't understand. No one here speaks English, so I'm a little bit worried about signing it, not knowing exactly what it says. As I struggled with the anxiety I felt about the man's injuries, I still had to contend with the police, the Australian embassy, the man's family, and the growing fear that I might be the target for, at best, extortion, at worst, revenge.
So the good people at the hospital translated it for me, and I trusted their translation. I had it done by 2 people independently and ultimately signed the document and got away.
With the help of Gratiano at BMW Motorrad, I got my bike to his friend's garage in Bandung. The guys there were brilliant and repaired the damage in just 1 day. I left Bandung and headed east through the towns of Yogyakarta, Solo and Malang. Outside Yogyakarta, I stopped to tour Borobudur, the largest Buddhist monument in the world. It's a massive complex built around 750 AD and now designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The riding was at times spectacular, at times workmanlike. But after the stresses of the past week, I welcomed uneventful days and small pleasures, like a cold chocolate milk at the end of a long ride. Another ferry ride, another chance to unwind. What was it about boats in the open water that inspired such reflection? It had taken me 18 days to ride all the way through Sumatra and Java. I'd seen the absolute worst that both man and Mother Nature can throw at us. Tsunamis, volcanoes, and traffic. But most importantly, I'd witnessed the massive environmental destruction occurring in Aceh. I disembarked and rode for another few hours down to Denpasar, where Lavina and Arya joined me at the W Retreat and Spa. After a couple of days, I'd have to leave them again to set off for Lombok, Sumbawa and Flores, en route to Wheel2Wheel's 9th country, Timor-Leste. Hello, Timor-Leste. But first, I went down to one of my favourite places on the beach for a drink and to watch the sunset. The adventure would have to wait until tomorrow.
A perilous ferry crossing beckons, but it's the only way to get to Timor-Leste, the newest and most anticipated country of Morgan's adventure. What's in store for Morgan on his next leg? Find out in the next episode of Wheel2Wheel. more information, please visit wheel2wheel.tv.